Welcome to another episode of Bespoke Architects Daily Pinup. I'm Nicole Walters, Director of Bespoke Architects, and I'm about to show you what I pinned on Pinterest today. One of the first projects I pinned this morning was called Hello Baby. It's a children's centre, and as you would expect in a children's centre, they do some interesting and playful things with colour and shape. I particularly liked this peach entry airlock. It has glass doors to the street and then a set of frameless glass doors on the inside, and I thought how delightful to walk through a peach entry. Possibly not so applicable in residential, but at least the colour palette and the combination of things might be inspiring for your next residential project. One great idea from this project that could be used residentially is through this little aqua arch, and it's obviously a locker room in this instance, but could be used residentially as a mudroom fit out. So that's a room that we're getting requested a lot more for these days, that acts as the linkage between outside and inside, and often we see it where the garage is connected to the house. And a lot of people like to do some built-in joinery there where the kids can hang their coats and their school bags in their lockers if they like and keep their shoes. So that's a very inspiring, very cute fit out. The next project I saw this morning that really got me excited was the Summit House. This house has an amazingly elegant and refined materials palette. So it uses a lot of timber. It uses these routed door handles in all its joinery, which are just stunning. I enjoyed this playful pendant light above the dining room table. As I've mentioned in other episodes, task lighting isn't an essential over a dining table, so that's where you've got license to play with those light fittings and really do exciting and different things. And again, you'll see as we move through this project that even the light fitting reflects the material palette of the project. So moving on to their bathroom, you can see it's a floating vanity unit that's been left empty at this end, and that's to accommodate this angled translucent wall material that they've got there. And their medicine cabinet also allows for that sloped wall. It has some open storage at the end, and then you've got your shaving cabinet storage behind mirrors there. And again, we're seeing that wood grain material and the blacks sort of playing through all these fit out items. I also pinned this one of their bedrooms, and I pinned it for the inverse triangle window to the street. We don't often see a triangle window. Normally we see rectangles, squares or circles. So that I found very inspiring today. Another image of the bedrooms with that translucent wall sheeting to the side, and you can see that the joinery again is the timber veneer with the routed handle, and in this instance they've gone all the way out to that cladding and put a mirrored door in, so that's bouncing more light into that space as well. And I really enjoyed the fact that they'd actually used a window furnishing. It's a roller blind and it's right up the top of that image. That helps not only block out the light, which is something that needs to happen to my side right now, but also means that you won't be putting on a potential puppet show at night when you're lit from behind for your neighbours to see. So a window furnishing over a translucent material is a great idea. The external of that same project is this image down here. So you can see that the garage is again that seamless all-in-one sort of material where you can't see necessarily where the garage door is, and I'm going to guess that it's the same translucent material as we're seeing up in the bedrooms. And then there's our inverted triangle windows that we saw in the bedroom, and then they're offset with these white diamonds and black triangles. So it's a really interesting facade. Here it is again, and it has got some depth to it. So there are shrouds around the windows and the white diamonds, just adding the shadow and the light and the play on the front facade to the street. Then there's their internal staircase, again the blonde timbers with the black accents in the balustrade there, leading up again to that joinery with the beautiful routed handle. A quick one of their kitchen. Now that is one of the biggest island benches I have seen. It looks to be about 1,500 wide with your two 600 units back to back, and then your seating area of another 300. On the back wall of their kitchen is their cooking area, and then their island bench, which is enormous and therefore multifunctional, has their sink in it. Over here we can see a detailed shot of that sink, and isn't it incredible? It's got the drainage built in that runs off into this deeper rectangle sink. It has a shallower square sink, and then this rectangle to the rear of that image, I'm going to guess, is for storage of detergent bottles, brushes, that kind of thing, that obviously for styling of the image were taken out. But I think it's wonderful. And then you've got your integrated dishwasher below. So that's a really stunning little project. The next one that caught my eye was the Roofnan Cafe. And what captured my eye was the placement of this stair, which is center of this image, underneath a skylight, which is at the very peak of this gable ceiling. So your two halves of your ceiling are going up, and in the middle is the skylight. So how incredible to walk up that stair and see the light. Over here you can see the detail of that stair. So you'll see it's actually an interesting stair. I haven't made one like this myself. So it's a mesh panel to the bottom. It's solid, and then it's got these glass treads on it. The first tread's actually a rock. And then obviously that balustrade, to meet Australian building regulations at least, would need to have a glass infill. Over here is a sectional detail of that same stair. So you can see that even the supports for it are on right angles to the fall of the stair itself, which adds a little bit of drama to the stair. It's not so plain. And then over here is the detailed image of the support structure for the roof. So those big columns there, and how they sit so delicately in these little metal stirrups that connect the timber column to the concrete floor. So a really well refined project, that one. And the external of it, so you can see the staircase in the background there cutting through that doorway. I pinned this one just because of this incredible layering effect that they've achieved. It's a two-dimensional flat plane, but they've got this metal cladding, then they have this beautiful glass inlay, and then the solid metal cladding again, and then the actual opening, the door opening in the middle. And I just found that layering added some interest to that otherwise potentially boring facade. So that's why that one has made the inspiration boards today. And then we move on to the Belle Rea House. Now I pinned the interior because of the color combination. The burnt yellow is stunning on those dining room chairs, picked up again in the light fitting above, again a playful pendant. And again, even their artwork picks up that color palette, contrasting brilliantly with the cobalt blue couch in the living room. And again, we can see some blue art on the walls in the background. Externally, a lot tamer, doesn't have that same vibrant color. It is actually just a white sort of rectangle there that's quite large, multi-story obviously. But the thing that really impressed me with the window shrouds, we use window shrouds a lot to add a bit of depth, as I say, in the facade. In this instance, they're actually done in concrete, which I really enjoy. I haven't done one myself in concrete. Certainly seen it done in timber, and I personally have done it a lot in steel and in aluminium. This one, and I really enjoy the fact that the larger windows have larger shrouds and the smaller windows have the smaller shrouds. So again, it's adding interest on otherwise just a white wall. So that's why that one has made the inspiration board today. Another project that made it up there was the Elm Grove House. I pinned it, the external, for the awning windows that are happening over these sliding doors. They're a great way to ventilate a house naturally. So you've got low windows on the far side of that building, helping pull the cool air in, and then the hot air exits through those awning windows. You can in fact see the big structural member that runs between those awning windows and the sliding doors below. Here is a detail of that same situation. And in it, the reason I pinned that is because it's showing you the two different ways that I've been talking about recently for window furnishings. Up here, we can see the roller blind recessed into the ceiling itself. And down at this level, where the big structure's happening externally, they've actually created a pelmet to put the roller blind in. So you can go to our Pinterest page, click on that image, and really start to understand window furnishings and what your options are, but also the structural implications for that. And again, I pinned the interior, this one for the light fitting. So this is a skillion roof, so the ceiling and the roof all rake one way together. And as a lighting solution, they've put in track lighting, but their track lighting is running parallel or horizontal, the same as the floor. The other way to do it is obviously track lighting running on the same angle as the ceiling, or again, we can do a gimbaled down light that's recessed up into the ceiling and then angled to reach down at the right angle. But I did find this an interesting solution. In the blacks, to run it horizontal to the floor and run it lower. So it becomes a bit of a feature, and also is getting the lighting closer to where you actually are working beneath it, particularly in your kitchens and your dining room there. The next house I pinned was the Shrouds house. I hope I've said that correctly. And it is the simplicity of this facade. So we've got one material, blockwork, and then we've got this horizontal slit window right at the bottom, and it just makes for such an elegant and simple facade. And this little relief up here is actually the box gutter on the roof exiting out to outside. And then we look at the corner view of that same entry. I really apologise about the sun right now. It is beaming in my front window. We've got the vertical elements here of the front facade. That's actually a staircase that leads up to the roof. And then we've got these wonderful rectangles within rectangles, solids and clears, which is, you know, something like we would expect to see in a modernist painting. Oh, look at that. If I stand back, we're out of the sunlight. And then over to this side, we have the small pocket windows there. So again, it's a really playful facade, and I'm quite enjoying that. I also pinned their skylight. So this one's got a skylight, and interestingly has elected to put walls around that skylight. Whether that is because the roof is accessible publicly, I'm not sure, but what it does mean is that from the inside looking up, you're actually going to look up and not only see sky, but see a tunnel that you'll get a tunnel effect rather from the walls on the roof. So that would be an interesting thing to see from the bottom. But there wasn't a photo of that online. And then finally, I did pin what is their master suite, and I pinned it for this timber screen that acts as a room divider between the bedroom and the sitting area of that master suite. It's a really interesting design solution. We've done something in a residential project of a similar nature where we divided the study and the living room. Unfortunately, with this pandemic, that photo shoot has been pushed back, but we hope to get you those images. It's a really nice solution where it offers connectivity between the two spaces, but does give you that definition of, well, this is one zone and that is another zone. So we have used it ourselves in the past. Moving on, the Belle Rea House. It made it onto the board today for this incredible, that is actually a checker plate steel staircase that's been painted eggplant purple. So absolutely think that as from both a material and a colour perspective, a great inspiration and something a bit different. And doesn't it look stunning with their artwork there on that landing? It all work, the colour palette works really, really well there together. And then we've got the internal vanity. Sorry, I was adjusting the lighting levels to see if that's going to help, but it's not. The internal vanity, the simplicity of this. It's one material that's making up the counter, front, top, splashback, and basin. So that's a really beautiful vanity, very, very simple. Obviously no storage. They do have some baskets underneath there that's assumably got their toilet paper and everything else in it. And then the simplicity of just the stick-on mirror that takes up the whole wall, which increases the feeling of space in that room. Moving on, this one, the Modern Backyard House, was pinned for that mezzanine level. So that's where we put a second level inside a big open space. And then the linkage between that is actually what I would consider to be a ladder rather than a stair. So it's running on a much steeper gradient than a staircase. And then those skylights up on that level, giving you light, but also giving you light to the overall space. And that is why that made the Pinterest selection today. The backdrop images here, I won't be using them on my Zoom call, but I do really like this lighting solution for a reading light in bed. So it's assumably a light that is on an arm and can be rotated, and the switching for that is on a cord off the light itself. And then the other one that was suggested as a Zoom backdrop, but I pinned it rather as a solution for a water feature in a back garden, is this lovely reflection pool here in this image. Now, if that is in Australia, it will need to be less than 30 centimetres deep to not have to put a pool fence in. But here with this landscaping of the really neat hedging and the ornamentals, it's just stunning. And so that's why it's made the inspiration board today. Over here, I did sneak on an A-frame house. We don't really have much call for them here in Geelong. They are usually that steep to keep the snow off and therefore the weight down that's on the roof. But look at that form where you've got this beautiful triangle. Infill is glass, so it's really lightweight, and then you've got the heavier slate material in the background, or the timber shingle roof there, I should say. So it's just that contrast of the two materials, and then the really strong shapes that got that one on the board. The IC residence, externally it was that heavy cantilevered concrete look that made the board today, offset with those timber screens and a bit of light and shadow depth there created, but also the staircase. Look at that vibrant yellow. So it's vibrant yellow on the underside, following obviously the treads and the rises of that staircase, but when you look at it from above, you'll actually see that that is a timber tread with the solid yellow of the balustrade there. So I'm really enjoying that as another bright and colourful, inspiring staircase. And then the Dimension Lab. Now I pinned this one because obviously arch openings were really something I was seeing a lot of. I particularly like this solution. For this, it's actually screening a kitchenette to a showroom, but that's more of a mesh screen that could be used in obviously a retail environment, also an office environment, but also residentially as just another type of material to help define spaces without feeling super heavy, and allows that connectivity between the two spaces, and that's it viewed from afar. So that is why that one is on the inspo board today. The House of the Ceramic Artist. This house had some beautiful detailing in it. So we might start with the front facade, which is this image here. As you can see, it is a solid concrete wall with a timber recess relief over here, and then it's just got the most exquisite horizontal and vertical line to break up that concrete mass, and that line is lining up with the door and the relief there. And if we travel around to the courtyard at the rear, we can see that that line is going to carry all the way around that property, and that is just really, really nice detailing, as is the window here. So this is a steel frame window that's spanning floor to ceiling, and then look at that, they've gone for a timber framed glass door within that. So they've broken up that material again, a bit like the timber relief on the front facade on those windows and door openings, and I just thought that was just really beautiful. The inside, the studio space for this had some really lovely joinery. So we've got at the back there of this image the kitchenette little sink, or the work sink with the solid base cabinets underneath, and then the floating shelf storage above. And then here we have some racking, obviously displaying the artist's work here, and I just thought that was really nice. And again, you may not have that many pieces of ceramic in your home that you're trying to display, but that could work equally as well for photos or books. So that was just a really nice piece of joinery, and that's why that one made the board. And then this image here of the actual kitchen made the board because it's really simple. So that's just a kitchen in a wall, and everything is concealed behind cupboards. So it's very, very neat and very minimalist. And then we've got this window splashback at the back, and that's letting all this light into their work area. I also particularly liked this little pendant light at the front of this image that's hanging over the coffee table. The only thing to be aware of if you're going to do a solution like that would be that the wattage of that light globe isn't too bright, because it will be at eye level pretty much for anybody sitting in this area. So you just don't want to blind yourself like I am being blinded right now by the sun, I should say. And then finally, the last thing that I pinned over the weekend, or from the weekend, was these new 3D coloured wall tiles. Here is a pink example in an ensuite, and they've got them going floor to ceiling. It was the colour palette and the shape of the tile, like the inlay, so it's got a bit of depth to it again that I quite enjoyed, and the fact that it gave you very strong horizontal lines. You can see the horizontal line there lining up with the door frame. So you're getting lots of great lines to work with. And then here it is applied as a dado panel to a bedroom wall. So that's when you're protecting your wall at that lower level where, you know, people are going to knock it, children are going to run into it, your mops and stuff all potentially are going to hit it. So it's protected by this tile. And then we go above, and then we go back to our painted plaster. And again, the color palettes for these tiles, there was a vast range of colours that the tile came in and would work with any palette. So that's why that one made the board. And that was everything that we got from over the weekend. And finally, if you are looking for a little bit more inspiration, Bespoke Derbyshire House number 5 is up on YouTube. You can take a look through this homage to the Edwardian, styled beautifully by the client in their furniture selection. It really does pay tribute to that period that they were going for. And again, you'll see a play of light and shadow in a gable facade where we've added depth with this projecting seating in the master bedroom. So there are a lot of the tricks and tips that we've been talking about in these other images do appear in that video, and I hope you enjoy that. So thank you for joining us on Bespoke Architects Daily Pinup. I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow when we check out what it is that I've been pinning. Thanks so much for joining me.